This is a training video on how to check the dry tappet clearance or dry lifter clearance on a hydraulic lifted engine, and we'll have more on the solid lifter. Remember, this is just a training video. Make sure you use your tech manual. On this particular engine, we've looked it up. The specs are minimum 57,000, maximum 2/10. We're going to be doing cylinder number 4 here. You need to get the engine up on the compression stroke. You need to make sure that you've collapsed your lifters. That means you've drained all the oil out of them. Usually if you've taken the engine apart or the cylinder off, you got to disassemble the lifters to get the oil out. Once you've done that, we're going to check this particular cylinder. I usually like to use 2 feeler gauges. I got one set at 57 thousandths. We push on the back of the rocker arm to collapse the lifter. From there, we stick our feeler gauge in. We want to make sure the 57,000 goes and the 2/10 don't. In this case, they both go. So to adjust the valves on a hydraulic lifted engine, we have to change push rods. Sometimes you can just move them from one cylinder to another. Other times you may actually have to get new ones. Let's check this one. That's good. This one will not go in, so this valve is adjusted properly. After that has been done and you've got them all set between the 57 and the 2/10, the engine oil and the hydraulic lifters will make up for the rest of it. You will not have to touch them again, so you go back into that engine or that particular cylinder. Now we're going to be dealing with solid lifters. I am going to be using the procedure that Lycoming uses for the smaller engines like the 0235, 0290, and some of the other solid lifters. The way they start out is they want you to bring number 2 cylinder up on top dead center, zero out the valve clearance. You want to make sure there's no clearance whatsoever. Then you bring number 4 up, zero it out so there's no clearance. So now when we bring number 1 up, we make sure we're pushing the camshaft over this way. If you remember from recips, you have a clearance between the camshaft and the case. You want to make sure you're not adjusting with that 3/1000 clearance or whatever it is and having that in your actual measurement. So you want the camshaft pushed all the way over while we adjust this side. Once these are adjusted, they'll push it over to that side. I'm going to be dealing with cylinder number 4. We're going to want to take our ratchet and break our jam nuts or lock nuts loose. From there, we back out the adjusters just a little bit. Now we got some play in each one of these. The specification that Lycoming has for these small engines is between 6 and 12,000, but they want you to shoot for 10. So I usually get the 10,000 feeler gauge out and I put it through there. Now this is going to be a feel. You're going to have to get a feel for this. You're not going to be able to do it perfect the first time. I have told students if you're going to be dealing with something that only has one size, you're not using, if this goes and this doesn't, you're good. They do make feeler gauges that for this 10,000, the tip would be 9, the back would be 11. So if the front goes and the back don't, you know you have 10,000s. I got a nice drag there. From there, usually what I like to do is take a wrench and snug it up as best I can. Let me recheck my clearance before I go much further. I got a fairly good clearance there. Then I take my torque wrench. The key thing is to hold the adjuster to stop it from turning. Then I got to go back and recheck it to make sure it didn't move. That feels pretty good. Now let's go to the other one. We put our feeler gauge in between the rocker arm and the valve stem, sort of like we were doing over there with the hydraulic ones. Now I have to adjust it to get a fairly decent drag. This is something, again, you're going to have to get a feel for. Snug the adjustment nut up while I hold the screw. Now put my torque wrench on it. And again, hold the adjustment. And that feels pretty good to me. So with that, once these are adjusted, then I'd go back and readjust those that I zeroed and put them between 10 and 12. I mean 6 and 12, excuse me. Again, the reason we're shooting for 10,000 is, unlike most engines you may have worked on, because these have massive aluminum heads and steel jugs and steel push rods, these expand more with the heat than the metal does, so your gap actually gets bigger as this gets hotter, unlike most engines that get smaller. Again, make sure you refer to your tech manuals while you do it. That's pretty much the way the 0235 tech manual tells you how to do it.